Hi, good morning. I've been asked to share my thoughts and ideas around whether or if our childhood trauma can often stop us from going out there and being visible and taking big leaps of faith and stepping into our leadership. So I wanted to come on and share this with you today. And I always proceed with caution when I talk about subjects like this because everyone has different versions potentially of childhood trauma. Some people don't have any childhood trauma at all. Some people have very deep childhood trauma, and it's definitely not my area of expertise in terms of, in exploring that and investigating that deeply. However, I can talk from my own experiences and those of my clients, and I can share with you some of the things that I definitely would recommend in order to be able to kind of create the space to be able to clear whatever needs to be cleared and then step into a more visible, empowered version of yourself. So I've been sharing quite a lot about what was showing up in my business when I first started my business 7 years ago. And I realized that one of the things that I needed to do was to be more highly visible and confident and putting myself out there on social media and in-person events. And there were so many things that held me back. Real fear of being visible, being rejected, being judged, being criticized, people not taking me seriously, people not listening to what I was going to say, like people ignoring me, a lot of imposter syndrome. And I share very openly about the fact that I realized that a lot of that was my own childhood trauma showing up in my adult life and in my business. So it was like there was a little girl inside of me that was like, no, I don't want to be seen, because if I'm seen, I'm going to get picked on and I'm going to get judged and I'm going to get ridiculed, and I don't want to play in the playground. I want to go and hide in the toilets during playtime, right? And I don't know how many of you can resonate with that. And I'm certainly not going to talk into your childhood trauma, whatever that might look like. But what I wanted to, make you aware of is that certainly on my own journey, there were so many aha moments and realizations and so many things that helped me with that. I work with incredible coaches and mentors that helped me through that process. I discovered human design. Human design is an incredible tool for that because it really helps you to see who you are, warts and all, and the things that maybe you think are, things that are wrong with you or imperfections, really help you to realize that those are in fact your strengths. And I think that when we own our imperfections and the things that we maybe are shameful about and that we feel bad about, and when we actually own them and then use that to actually leverage our own visibility and our own messaging and to support our clients in whatever journey that they're on, is a very powerful thing, right? When we can own the things that maybe we've hidden before. So of course human design is huge up there. Kundalini also really helped me. Also being in women's circles really, really helped me. I loved, it was a time where I was in a lot of women's circles and I was sharing, and I love women's circles. And that was also very, very healing for me, especially when it came to like my sister wounds, being very, coming from a corporate background where even though I was a woman myself, I didn't really respect women in business as much as I respected men. Oh, I can't believe that, I say these things out loud, and that's how I felt when I was in corporate. So healing those wounds, and also healing my witch wounds as well, not wanting to step into my true power and my own spiritual being and, you know, my gifts and all of that. So that really helped as well, the circles. But when someone reached out to me, it was actually one of my clients that reached out to me and said, I'd really love for you to share this. When someone reached out to me and said, how can we make peace with our inner child or heal our inner child so that we can then step into that biggest, boldest, highest vision of ourselves and be more visible and confidently expressed and create, you know, the success and the wealth and the communities and the programs and whatever it is that you want to create, the relationships in your life. There were 3 things that stood out for me and 3 things that I wanted to share with you now. So I think the first thing is really recognizing them and naming them. I witness this quite a lot, especially in the online world, that very often we can make excuses for playing small and shrinking into a smaller space. And instead of actually taking responsibility for our own shit, our own trauma, our own feelings, our own identity, we can blame others for it. So a really good example of this might be that when I first started off in my business, I used to invest a lot in masterminds and personal development courses. And I never used to show up in them. I just used to hide because I didn't feel that I belonged there and I was overwhelmed, and I didn't ask for help because me asking for help was a sign of weakness. But instead of owning all of that, I just used to blame the community. And I just used to say, well, I'm just not aligned to this. I'm not aligned to this community. I don't like the energy of it, or, you know, I don't like the coaching style of the coach or whoever the leader was in there. And so I've certainly experienced it, and I see it a lot. It's very common that we can go into the blaming game instead of taking the responsibilities for ourselves. So I think the first thing is to really acknowledge your scared little child. Acknowledge her and listen to what she's saying instead of trying to make excuses and blaming other people. Actually acknowledge the fear. Because when it's acknowledged and when you can take ownership of it, well, first of all, it's not as scary anymore. And then that also gives you access to be able to share it with others. So instead of playing small in communities or not appearing in communities, not showing up in communities and blaming those communities, actually take responsibility for that. Take responsibility for your own feelings, and as scary as it might seem, start to name them. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a very difficult subject, I know, for many of us. But really, if I look at the things that really transformed the relationship with myself and stepping into my visibility and helping me to express myself in the way that I can express myself now, and also looking at my future self as well, right? Because there's still levels of that. There's still levels of that visibility that I need to step into and that I'm stepping into now. Forgiveness has played a huge important part of that. And every client that I've worked with, without fail, when we've done this forgiveness work, has really been able to step into a bigger, bolder version of themselves. And forgiveness, when you forgive someone, it doesn't mean that you're supporting what they've done. There's no right or wrong with any of it. To be honest with you, it's not about the other person, it's about yourself. It's about your relationship with yourself and about releasing anything that you're holding on to. And I did a lot of forgiveness with my family, with the men in the organisation that I was brought up in, and the control, all the control and the restriction that I was brought up in. I did a lot of forgiveness with that. And you know what's happened? It's just released me, and it's also released my inner child. It's helped me to be able to step out of that victim mode and again that blame mode, and actually take back my power. It's helped me to empower myself to be able to stand up confidently and to be like, well, okay, these things happened to me, and you know, it wasn't nice, but actually I can release those. And there's a beautiful exercise that if you want me to share with you, I can do. It's called compassionate self-forgiveness. It's hardcore. It's 30 days. Like, you have to freaking show up for it, and it's stretchy and it's confronting, and it will trigger the fuck out of you, but it's really, really great just for not only forgiving others, but also forgiving ourselves. Because we always talk about forgiveness, forgiving others, but actually, have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven your inner child? Have you released all the things that you hold on to? We can be so judgmental about ourselves. You know, how many times do you look at, like, do you go onto a podcast, or do you watch yourself on a Facebook Live, or you watch yourself at like a recording of yourself on stage, or whatever that might look like, and you're judging yourself and you're going, oh God, you know, oh, look at my stomach, or look how many times I say or oh, I could have said that differently, or I wish that I'd worn a different dress. I went on a tangent in that, you know, I was speaking to someone today online, like she was sharing really vulnerably with us that she cried on stage. I'm like, are you going to judge yourself for that? I've cried on stage so many times, and I used to judge myself for doing that, right? I don't think she's judging herself. I think she was sharing it because, like, it's an awesome thing to do, right? So we need to stop judging ourselves and release that. So if you want to learn how to do that, then reach out and I'll share that with you. And then the third thing that just came immediately to my mind, and I'm just riffing this, right? I didn't come on to do this live with any agenda. This is just coming through me. The third thing on this is really allowing play. Allow your inner child to play. We have got a beautiful oak tree in the bottom of our garden. We've got a big garden. We live in the countryside. It's so beautiful. And we've got a big oak tree. And as soon as we moved into this house, I didn't do it. I asked my partner to put a swing up. I've got like one of those, it's like a hammock swing, and it's in the oak tree. And I like to go in there and I like to swing in my tree, and I like to play, and that is feeding my inner child. I'm allowing her to play. I'm allowing her to be free. I'm allowing her to express herself. It's another reason why I love clothes, and I love fashion, and I love styling. I love dressing up. I love going into my wardrobe and going, what are we going to wear today? What are we going to wear today? What feels playful? How do I want to show up today in this world? And making it into a game. Like, take your inner child, like, take her to places. Take her to the cinema. Just go on your own to the cinema and take your inner child to the cinema. Buy her popcorn if she wants it. And just sit with her and love her, and spend some time with her. Have fun with her. Might seem like quite a silly thing to do, but actually it's really powerful, because you're acknowledging that side of yourself that you might have kind of switched off and kept hidden. And actually, when we are in the energy of play, we're in this fascinating space, we're able to manifest so much more. Children manifest really easily because they're in a state of play. They're in a state of wonderment. you ask a child what they want to be. They're like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to go to the moon. I want to be a pop star. I want to be a footballer. And then you ask them when they're a teenager, and very often those dreams have disappeared because they've lost that childlike quality where they're really dreaming big, right? Your inner child dreams big. She is a big dreamer. Allow her to come out and play. Allow her to express herself. Have boundaries with her. Set those boundaries, but allow her to play, and then just see what shows up for you. When you allow her to play, you're going to be more visible, you're going to be more out there, you're going to be more playful. You're going to be stepping into a bigger version of yourself because she holds that version for yourself. So, very often we talk about your higher self. Your higher self is talking to you. Like, allow yourself to step into your higher self and allow your higher self to guide you through. But actually, your inner child is also there to guide you. Your inner child needs to talk to you. Your inner child doesn't really need to talk to you. It just wants to play. So play with her. And then you're supported by all these elements of yourself. So those are my thoughts around, starting on this healing process with your childhood trauma. I work with so many clients. I was working with a client for a year and a half with her visibility, and she shares the story of when she was a child, she had to really hide and not be visible because she was one of the only 2 or 3 children of colour within her school. And she was taught very early on in her childhood that she needed to be small. Like, don't be visible, hide, don't show yourself, because if people see you, they will pick on you, like, be horrible to you. You're going to suffer with racism. I've got no concept of what that must feel like. No concept at all. Of course I don't. But this was her childhood. And then when she went into her adulthood, she just continued to do that because it's how she'd been conditioned. You got to play small. Don't be seen. Fit into society. Continue to play the good girl. Don't cause a scene. Don't cause a scene. Because if you cause a scene, you'll get into trouble. And that is how she played her life, really right up until she started to work with me. And she's just turned 60. And it was just a joy to see her stepping into this bigger, bolder version of herself and being completely unapologetic and starting to play this bigger game. Starting to be visible, starting to share her truth, not really caring about what society thinks about her because they've put her in a box so that they think that she needs to be this person, really owning herself and owning her story and owning her vision. And I see her flying, and I see her being visible, and I see her expressing herself. I see her living her life and going out and sharing herself at events. I see her on social media, I see her sending out her emails, and I see her building her community and making money and thriving and creating the life that she's always wanted to create. And it's just a beautiful thing to experience. So if you want to experience the same thing, then reach out. Let me know what you want to experience. Let me know what you want to do. What's your big, bold vision? What does your inner child want to do? What did you want to do when you were younger? Maybe it's time for you to look at that once again. when I was younger, I wanted to travel around the world. I remember my parents had a shell and a dried seahorse, and they used to tell me it was from this place called Mauritius. And I used to dream about going to places like that with white sands and blue sea, and to travel and to, like, just travel and just see the world. And I've created that for myself throughout the whole of my life. And I've also recreated that in my business. My biggest dream was to be on stage. I always wanted to perform. I always wanted to be on stage. And I kind of forgot a lot of that when I was growing up. And I've been very lucky to be able to tap into that. I've performed on stages all through my life, and now through my work, I'm able to speak on stages, and now I'm stepping into that bigger version of myself, speaking on bigger stages and really being serious about my speaking, with the support of my mentors and my communities that I'm also engaging in. So I want this to be an invitation to you today. What does your inner child want to do? Maybe if you just did it with her for like 1 hour, and then maybe one day, and then maybe a few days, or 1 day a week, and then you extended it. And what would happen if that then became your life? If you were able to play and dance in that big, bolder vision, what would you create? I'd love to know. Share it below. And I will see you all soon.